Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espey.
First, my good evening. Welcome to Update, where we'll take you through what's been happening news-wise today. So coming up before 5:30, there's hopefully some good news for mobility scooter users on the Isle of Man, as there are plans for more accessible bus stops. Also tonight, a trade union launches an attack on government's handling of whistleblowers. The return of the food festival is being hailed as very positive. The celebration of Manx produce will be back next year. And supporters of FC Isle of Man give their reaction to recent changes at the top of the club. Also, we'll keep an eye on the traffic and the travel and the weather as well. And as ever, if you'd like to get in touch about any of the stories we're talking about, you can email studio@manxradio.com or text 166 177. We'll start by joining Christian for a roundup of the news headlines. Fastamai, Christian.
Fastamai. The trade union Prospect has accused the government of systemic failures in its handling of whistleblowing cases. It claims members who raise concerns are met with obstruction instead of protection. The infrastructure minister says there's a backlog of work that needs to be done to make the island more accessible.
We know that it's not good enough just to get people off a bus and leave them at a bus stop if there's no dropped curbs nearby.
Michelle Hayward says work is underway to create more castle curbs across the island, which will allow mobility scooter users the chance to use the bus service. Food producers on the island say they're quietly optimistic about the return of the Food and Drink Festival.
We're very quick to give government a kicking, but I think the new hierarchy within DFE, in my opinion, are doing the right things.
That's Stuart Mead, who runs Red My Farm. The festival is set to take place next year after a 2-year hiatus. And an emergency meeting will take place over potentially significant disruption to Manx football matches later this week. It's understood most, if not all, men's senior fixtures this Saturday are in doubt due to a lack of available referees. In the latest international news, the UK Prime Minister has accused Nigel Farage of stirring the pot of division because it's worked previously. After calling Reform's policy of ending indefinite leave to remain racist, Sir Keir Starmer's used his conference speech to criticise its leader again.
He resorts to grievance. They want to turn this country, this proud, self-reliant country, into a competition of victims, saying to you, to working people, don't trust in each other. You can't fix this.
Nigel Farage says the PM is unfit to be in Downing Street. Donald Trump says Hamas has a few days to decide whether to approve his peace plan for Gaza. The US president says if not, he'll allow Israel to do what it needs to do. And 125 jobs at the Lindsey oil refinery in North Lincolnshire are going. The plant is going into administration. Those are the updated news headlines next at 6.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Thank you very much indeed, Christian. So the weather forecast, dry this evening, but tonight rain and drizzle will develop. That will be quite heavy at times as well. Fresh to strong south or southwest winds. Minimum overnight temperatures around 13. So tomorrow it's going to be wet at first. It will become dry later in the morning, perhaps with some brightness for a time, before patchy light rain returns late tomorrow afternoon or evening. It's going to be quite breezy as well. A fresh south or southwest wind tomorrow with maximum temperatures of 17. And just looking ahead to Thursday, patchy rain at first. That will turn persistent and heavy as the day goes on, and there will be fresh to strong southerly winds increasing strong to gale force as well. So lots to look forward to. Sunset this evening, 6:58. Sunrise tomorrow morning just before 7:20.
Lost your keys? Got locked out? Get in with Kevin's Keys. Your fast, reliable locksmiths 24/7. Homes, cars and bikes, Kevin's Keys do it all. And why not get a spare set cut and chipped just in case? Call Kevin on 287 287.
At Begode Cattery, we have been caring for animals for over 50 years. As a cattery, we care for customers' cats and treat them as our own. Contact Begode Cattery on 676 947 or find Begode Cattery on Facebook.
SMS Trading. New and second-hand furniture from flat pack to fully built. See our range at 3 St Paul Square, Ramsey. All island delivery and man-in-a-van service available. Call SMS Trading on 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
Reach the Isle of Man's biggest radio audience with Manx Radio. airtime, sponsorship and digital opportunities available. For more information on how we can help your business grow its market share, contact the friendly, experienced team on sales at manxradio.com.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's just coming up to 5:05. Now, a Douglas bar and restaurant has been fined £11,500 after contravening multiple fire regulations. Bar George Limited was sentenced in absence at Douglas Courthouse today after repeated attempts were made to summon the owners to court, as Siobhan Fletcher reports.
The business was inspected on Thursday the 27th of March this year after an anonymous tip-off to the police was reported to the Isle of Man Fire and Rescue Service. The officers found several issues, including multiple items being stored in the way of fire exits and a logbook showing a lack of tests being logged for items from fire extinguishers to the building's fire alarm system and emergency lighting. A set of double fire doors at the back of the restaurant had also been screwed shut, and another next to the kitchen had fallen off its frame and also showed signs of screws being installed. It was claimed they had been screwed shut to prevent an ex-employee breaking in. The court heard that owner Damien Hawley was cautioned and given a list of issues to rectify to be able to reopen. He told the officers he wished to reopen for trading the following day and the Saturday before completely shutting down the business. 2 further inspections took place on the Friday, with the minimum standard reached to reopen. On Saturday, the 29th of March, Bar George ceased trading as discussed, blaming tough times in the hospitality industry when making the announcement online, sentencing the company to pay £11,500 in fines and £50 in prosecution costs. Deputy High Bailiff Rachel Braidwood described the company as having a lack of concern or regard to fire safety. She said these are serious offences, in particular the screwing shut of the fire door. She added that if there had been an incident, there could have been appalling consequences.
Siobhan Fletcher reporting there. 6.5 minutes past 5. A care home on the Isle of Man has been found to be not always safe, not always effective and not always well led. The Department of Health and Social Care carried out an inspection into Bradder View in Port Erin in July, as Amy Griffiths reports.
While it can accommodate 72 residents, there were 35 people living at the care home at the time of the inspection. It was a targeted inspection, which is said to have a narrower focus and is intended to assess whether an improvement notice served to the home 2 weeks before had been met. The initial inspection took place on the 30th of June, 3 days after the registered manager had resigned, meaning the provider, LV Care, was legally responsible for how the service is run and the quality of care provided. The unannounced inspection asked 3 questions. Was the service safe? Was it effective? And was it well led? Under the safe category, it looked for evidence that people were protected from abuse and avoidable harm. It found the service was not always safe, and at the previous inspection had made requirements for staffing and health and safety improvements. The whole care home was already subject to a safeguarding referral at the time of the inspection and had imposed a hold on admissions. It was told to make sure its pre-admission assessments had fuller information completed by a competent person, and there was an emphasis on ensuring the home was the most suitable placement for them. Training was being addressed as a matter of priority, with a number of areas highlighted as needing more staff knowledge, including moving and handling, diabetes and nutrition. There'd also been a lack of escalation by staff to other professionals when concerns were expressed about residents, but a new escalation policy had been put in place. When looking at Bradder View's effectiveness, the inspection looked for evidence that people's care, treatment and support achieved good outcomes and promoted a good quality of life. It found this wasn't always the case, although acknowledged that work was ongoing to improve this. Finally, when asking if the service was well led, the inspection found it wasn't. However, it did find there was evidence that areas for improvement had been identified and were being acted upon.
Amy Griffiths reporting, and we have asked LV Care and the Department of Health and Social Care for a comment on this. It's 9 minutes past 5. Well, the Prospect Trade Union has launched a strong attack on the Isle of Man government's handling of whistleblowers. Christian is with me now. He's been looking into this. Fastamai, Christian. So just tell us what this is all about then.
Yeah, Fastamai, Beth. So Prospect says the system that's supposed to protect whistleblowers is in fact failing them. The union claims members who raise concerns in good faith often face obstruction rather than protection, and that's despite legal assurances.
So what kind of failures are they talking about then?
The union lists a number of issues, including lengthy delays in starting investigations, breaches of confidentiality and even conflicts of interest involving the Office of Human Resources. Prospect also says disclosures are sometimes reclassified as complaints, which removes the statutory protections that should apply. And on top of that, some whistleblowers have reportedly faced suspension, reputational damage and even long-term career harm too.
OK, so this is not just about the process then, but also the impact on the individuals themselves.
Yeah, exactly, that's right. Prospect argues that the system not only mishandles cases but actively discourages people from coming forward, and they point to sensitive information being leaked into the public domain, safeguarding and health and safety concerns left unresolved, and also the absence of any appeals process.
So then how does the union say this affects the balance between government and these individuals?
Well, it highlights what it sees as a major imbalance. Government departments have unlimited access to legal advice from the Attorney General's chambers, but whistleblowers have to pay their own way. Prospect also echoed concerns from the Employment and Equality Tribunal chair, who recently said complainants can feel like a fish out of water when going up against government resources.
So what is Prospect asking for then?
Well, they want an independent oversight body, free to access, with statutory powers to ensure whistleblowing cases are dealt with fairly and transparently. Prospect says urgent reform is needed to restore public confidence and to properly protect those who speak out in the public interest.
Christian, thank you very much indeed. And again, we have approached government for a comment on this and as yet have not heard anything back. 11.5 minutes past 5. The Infrastructure Minister hopes to reveal more accessible bus stops in the coming weeks for mobility scooter users. Michelle Haywood was speaking on Manx Radio's Man and Line at lunchtime today, and she was asked by a resident about expanding the bus network to make it more friendly for those with accessibility issues. Dr Haywood said there were about 800 to 1,000 users across the island and work was underway to roll out more castle curbs.
We've gone through 6 ministers. You've done the trials. Why are we not on the buses yet?
We've done the trial and the trial went very well, and we are just in the process now of rolling this out to other routes. In order for that to happen, there's only a limited number of castle curbs that can support direct access onto the buses. So we know where those are. There are 137 of those around the island. And every time we've done any work that involved a bus stop and the pavement, we've put a castle curb in. We have some more money now. We're putting more castle curbs in. But we are currently surveying just to check exactly where the stops are that we can use the ramps on the buses, because the curbstone needs to be at least 100 millimetres high in order for us to safely deploy those ramps. We know that it's not good enough just to get people off a bus and leave them at a bus stop if there's no dropped curbs nearby. So there's quite a substantial piece of work going on just so that we can tell people exactly where the stops are that they can use. We are also at the moment preparing a bus strategy, and sitting under that, I've just spoken about the transport strategy, which is about safe and accessible. The bus strategy will have those themes running through it as well, and so one of the big key parts of that is looking at accessibility across the network.
You can understand, Michelle Haywood, this has been going on for 6 years. This is bordering on discrimination to disabled people.
I think we've just had our eye off the ball, so I've been trying to evaluate what the scale of wheelchair and mobility scooter use is on the island, and the best estimate I can get from asking various sources is probably that we're talking around 800 to 1,000 users of either wheelchairs or mobility scooters.
Well, this is something that's been... I mean, you didn't do this. This has been handed to you in the department, but it's been 6 years. It
has been a long time, and I think it's an eye off the ball. I don't think 800 and 1,000 people on the island who can't use our bus network, when they are the very people who are less likely to have private vehicles and perhaps more likely to need public transport is not acceptable. But we are working at pace now. We have pushed through. We authorised some work from Minor Capital Works budget as well to install more castle curbs, so we've got more locations that people can get to, and we are trying to then see how we put that information out to all the bus users.
That's the Infrastructure Minister, Dr Michelle Haywood. You can listen back to that Man in Line in full as a podcast on our website. You can also watch it on our YouTube channel or social media pages. It's just coming up to 5:15.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Nothing to report on the police pages. Mountain Road obviously still closed from Brandywell to the Cregner Bar. That's until the 20th of October. There are temporary lights on the Braddon Road just up from Braddon Bridge. That's for work on the entrance to that new residential development. And until the 24th of November in Santon, the Mount Murray Back Road is closed for the building of a concrete underpass. That's for the Comus Hotel and Golf Club. Looking down at the airport, all pretty much okay. Just a slight delay on the London Gatwick flight. And then looking at the steam packet, the Manxman due into Douglas any time now in the next sort of 15 minutes or so. He'll be heading out again for Heysham at 7:15.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio, and it's been the second year without the Isle of Man Food and Drink Festival in 2025. It's a celebration of Manx produce, and in previous years it has attracted up to 16,000 people through the gates. And while we definitely won't have one this year, it is making a comeback in 2026, and Amy has been finding out more.
We found out at the government conference last week that the Isle of Man Food and Drink Festival will return next year, but with an all-new look. First of all, it will now be led by the Department for Enterprise rather than the Department of Food and Agriculture, a move it's hope will mean those best placed to operate a large-scale event are in a position to do so. Enterprise Minister Tim Johnston has been explaining more.
There's always a lot of questions about it and a lot of concern. There's a lot of concern when it stopped. So I'm really pleased that as the department taking on more of the food marketing side now, that we're bringing it back because we recognise how important an event it is.
And would you agree that government was wrong to suspend it initially?
Well, I think that that was a decision made at the time by DEFA, who were running the event. I think clearly there were people who were disappointed with that, but I think at the same time there was also a move to look at to do things a bit differently and do different sort of events.
In 2024, to make up for a lack of a food festival, DEFA promised to increase the presence of local vendors at the annual agricultural shows. I asked Minister Claire Barber how successful that was as an alternative.
I think what it's shown is there's a demand to be present at the show and to exhibit, whether that be to raise awareness of a product, to look at getting people onto a more regular order list, or whether that be to actually sell directly to customers. But I think that there is space for not just the Food and Drink Festival, but actually almost that wider piece of making sure that food producers are aware of the different events that they can go to.
So a lot will be different next year. Stuart Mead, who runs Red My Farm near Balath.
Well, it's certainly been a tricky year in terms of losing one of the highlights of the year, one of the focuses of the year. So there's little things that are popping up to sort of fill the gaps, but nothing quite on the scale, obviously, of a national celebration of food and drink on the island. I think you need government involvement, certainly in a big flagship event. It's incredibly difficult. As producers, we're obviously trying to juggle running our businesses as well. We're not events organisers. We don't have the sway that government has. We don't have the influence. So it's very, very tricky for us to manage that from a time perspective and an influence perspective. It's an opportunity for people to launch new products. It's an opportunity for new startups to test the products as well.
That is Stuart Mead from Red My Farm ending that report there about the Isle of Man Food and Drink Festival, which will be back in 2026. It's coming up to 18 minutes past 5, and loneliness and isolation are two of the biggest challenges facing communities across the world, and of course it also happens here on the Isle of Man. It's the message from the Manx charity Live at Home, which is hosting an open discussion on the issue tomorrow at the Roundhouse in Braddon. That's between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And it's really hoped that this can be an opportunity for people to come together in an informal atmosphere to explore how together the community can make a difference. The chair of Live at Home is David Gorn.
We have been discussing, along with other organisations for a little while, the whole question of loneliness and isolation, which is effectively one of the biggest challenges facing communities, not only in the Isle of Man, but across the world. Many people feel lonely from time to time. It's all very personal. Whether you feel lonely or not is something which is really down to you, because you can be in a whole room full of people, or you can have what people believe to be a lot of friends or social contacts, but you can still be very lonely because you're not having that sort of proper dialogue with people. And it can affect all age groups. You don't have to live at home. You can do it for all sorts of different things. And really, if not addressed, it can have, and does in fact have, as we've seen, consequences on both the physical and mental health of the individual, which in turn causes requirements for mental health services and physical health services in Manx care.
With this event then, are you hoping to, open up the discussions around, what's going on with people and maybe facilitate people to talk to each other?
we have deliberately decided not to have a conference or a forum. What we're doing is hosting an open discussion. So anybody can come along, throw in their two penneth, and let's see where it goes. And from that, we would hope that we may be able to explore what we can do to make a difference to people with isolation and loneliness. I think, one of the things that's encouraged me recently has been the publication of the transport strategy, which includes a commitment to delivering a transport system, enhancing community resilience and reducing loneliness and isolation through providing strong transport links. And it's very encouraging, actually, that the Minister has agreed to come to part of the meeting on Wednesday to discuss this particular issue. And really, transport links are vital to isolation and loneliness. So hopefully we can draw that into it as well.
That's Chair of Live at Home, David Gaughan, talking to Siobhan. So that event tomorrow at the Roundhouse in Braddon between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Now, supporters of FC Isle of Man say they're saddened by the departure of manager Paul Jones, but believe his replacement is the strongest appointment the club could make at this time. The Ravens' 12th man group has issued a statement giving its thoughts on the managerial changes at the Manx club in the past week, as Rob Pritchard reports.
Last Tuesday, FC Isle of Man announced Jones would be stepping down from his role with immediate effect, with the team sitting 22nd in the NWCFL Premier Division. Just over 24 hours later, it was confirmed that former Manchester City and Oldham Athletic player Rick Holden will be taking up the post of first-team manager on a caretaker basis. Giving its views on the changes, the Ravens' 12th man says it has taken its time to consider what it wanted to say rather than speaking in the heat of the moment. With regards to Mr Jones' departure, the group describes him as one of the key figures in the creation of the club, and they will remember his time in the hot seat fondly. On the appointment of Mr Holden, the Ravens' 12th man says, along with his Premier League playing career, what matters to them is Mr Holden's contribution to football on the Isle of Man in recent years. Furthermore, the group believes the interim boss's task right now is a critical one to steady the ship, rebuild confidence and ideally steer the squad back toward winning ways. The Ravens' 12th man adds, at present we understand that the duration of his tenure is still uncertain. Whether he's in charge for 3 games, for the rest of the season or beyond, one thing is clear. Rick is the right appointment at this time and the 12th man will back him with the same ferocity and unity we show at every game. Mr Holden's first game in charge of FC Isle of Man will be this Saturday at 6 p.m. at the Bowl in Douglas when the island side hosts Barnoldswick Town in the NWCFL Premier Division.
Rob reporting there, and you can view that full statement from the Ravens 12th man supporters group on our website. We're going to stay with sport now because if you have any involvement in sport on the Isle of Man, then Isle of Man Sport wants to hear from you. The organisation has launched the Our Sporting Nation survey to hear what athletes, parents, carers, volunteers and officials think about the offering available over here. Louise Corkill of Isle of Man Sport tells us why they feel now is the right time to get the views of the community.
We're just at the end of the 10-year strategy for sport, so it's probably an apt time in that respect in terms of shaping the next strategy moving forwards. We've collected data on an annual basis from our recognised sports over the last few years, and that's really just around the number of people that are involved in sport, and we've never collected any data around people's experience.
How important is it to get the views of the likes of parents, guardians and volunteers?
They're essential. We can't run sport without parents willing to take their kids to various activities and volunteers willing to put those activities on. So those people are essential and the cornerstone really of our sporting community.
How would you say in recent years the dynamic of sport has shifted?
I guess there's been a big shift in a number of different areas. You look at how safeguarding has changed and a lot of governance areas have changed over the years, and that puts a bit more of a strain on volunteers. We are aware of that, but I think the sporting landscape just has to evolve. It's become much more professional, and as a result those kind of implications transition down into grassroots sport as well, and we want to try and support sports to ensure that they can meet all those demands as well.
Finances need to be involved in sports. How tricky is it for some sports out there to deal with some of the costs associated with being able to run?
Yeah, I mean, inflation has had a really big impact over the last couple of years, and with the move to more professional approaches, there's a higher requirement for people to travel off island more regularly to access training, competition, coach education, officiating education, CPD. There's a huge burden on the sports from that respect, and that's only increased in the last few years. So it is a challenge, especially for new sports that are trying to establish themselves on an island community. There's a lot of push-pull factors there in terms of people wanting to attend a variety of different sports and them having to be on at the same time. So sports are really competing for a very small pool of individuals.
That's Louise Corkill from Isle of Man Sport. That survey open until the 30th of November. You can find it online at the Isle of Man Sport website, or you can get a hard copy from the NSC in Douglas. Well, let's stay with sport now and welcome Rob here. We've heard a lot of you tonight, but not enough enough, Rob.
Fast am I. Well, first off, this evening, an emergency meeting will take place this week over potentially significant disruption to Manx football matches later this week. It's understood almost, if not all, senior men's fixtures this Saturday, the 4th of October, are in doubt due to a lack of available referees. This would include matchups across all 4 divisions of the Canada Life Men's Premier League and Ardern and Drug Unlimited Division 2, as well as both combination leagues. Well, it's been confirmed to Manx Radio that high priority talks will take place between all concerned parties tomorrow afternoon. The Isle of Man FA is hopeful this will lead to the resolution of any possible issues and will ensure that matches go ahead this weekend. Elsewhere, former Isle of Man tennis player Billy Harris has suffered defeat in the second qualifying round of this year's Shanghai Masters in China. He's been beaten in straight sets 7-6, 6-4 by men's singles qualifying second seed Valentin Royer of France in the early hours of this morning. Harris had previously overcome Japan's Taru Daniel 6-4, 6-2 in the first round. Separately, it has been a positive September for the former Albany and Castletown player as he won his first ATP Challenger title at the Cassis Open Provence in France on the 7th of September. Elsewhere, he also reached the last 4 of the Guangzhou Huangpu International Tennis Open and quarterfinals of the Jingshan Open. And in martial arts, it's been a brilliant start for Manx UFC competitor Alana Pritchard at the 2025 IMMAF World Championships in Georgia today. The fighter from Ramsey, who's representing Team England, has defeated Diana Akhmetova of Kazakhstan via technical knockout in her opening bout of the competition. As a result, the 22-year-old will now face Georgian competitor Mariam Topuria in the final of the senior women's super welterweight division. Well, Pritchard is chasing a second successive world title in 2025, having won gold in the same weight class at the same championships in Uzbekistan 12 months ago.
Rob, thank you very much indeed. Well, that is all from Update this evening. As ever, thank you so much for your company. You can find out much more about all our top stories on the Manx Radio website. Go to our social media if you would like to share your thoughts on them as well. Coming up next is Island Life, and this is with Dave Moore. It's called Historical Figures, and it's going to mark 2 milestones on the island. First of all, the death of Dr. James Niven, and also the Manx Bible. It's a fascinating listen, so do stay tuned for that. Afterwards, Chris Kinley will be here with greatest hits from 6 p.m. At 9, it's the Folk Show with John Barker, and then Dave will be back with you for After Hours from 10 p.m. Whatever you're doing this evening, have a good one, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Your health matters. Our health matters.